There were quite a few controllers made for Beatmania on the PlayStation 1, each with a different feel and design. In this video, I will be showing a collection of 8 different 5-key controllers for Beatmania on the PlayStation 1, including the standard ASCII controller that most players had and even some rare limited edition versions of it, the European exclusive design, the DJ Station Pro, and some knockoff controllers. I won't be showing any 7-key controllers in this video. Even though they can be used to play the 5-key games, they were made for playing 2DX in mind first, with backwards compatibility added for the 5-key games, so you could just have one controller for both 5-key and 7-key titles. The first controller is the original Beatmania 5-key controller, made by ASCII in 1998 and licensed by Konami. This is the most common controller for this game, which can be found very cheap in Japan. I will be comparing all the controllers in this video to this original controller. On the back of the box, it shows how to use the controller and explains in both English and Japanese. There are a few spelling mistakes, such as missing a space here to produce, and an extra letter in scratch, scratch. The controller itself is very plain. It has a flat circular disc with a turntable, 5 keyboard keys, and start and select buttons. On the back it has a sticker with a model number, rubber feet, and the screws that hold it closed. One thing I don't like about these ASCII controllers are the buttons. They tried to make it feel like pressing a piano key, where the front half of the button falls faster than the back half of the button, no matter where it's pressed. They also feel very stiff and are difficult to press down at times. To see the button mechanism they are using, the controller needs to be opened up. After opening, 3 boards are visible: the turntable board, start and select board, and the button board. Underneath the button board, the button mechanisms are visible. Picking one of these out shows just how large the button actually is, and how it works. It just rotates slightly on an axis whenever the button is pressed. It will never go straight down. There is a small metal piece that holds the 2 black keys in place as well. The main PCB is labeled with the number 999-33670. There is a chip with the word PlayStation on it with the code LZ93C001. The switch PCB is labeled with the number 999-33680 and has 2 switches on it. The sensor PCB is labeled with the number 999-33690 and has the opto sensors for the turntable. The turntable has 2 plastic discs between the turntable itself and the controller to help make it spin. The next 3 controllers are all limited edition variants of the ASCII controller, starting with the Famitsu F003. These controllers were numbered F3 through F5. I believe the F1 and F2 are not Beatmania controllers, but are most likely the Game Boy Famitsu Model F and Model F2 handhelds released around the same time, as those were also made by ASCII. These controllers were in limited quantities and were won through a lottery in Famitsu magazine. There were apparently 1,500 of each sold, and there is a sticker on each box showing which number controller it is, as well as on the back of the controller itself. This controller is number 1173. Each of these controllers was designed by a different Japanese design studio. For the F3, it was designed by Groovisions, who designed the character Chappie, who is displayed on the front and back of the box, and on the controller. Apparently, there is a Chappie iPhone app which still might be available to download. The controller is a very solid orange color with some Chappie silhouettes on the buttons, and a large face on the turntable. The sticker under the buttons shows the model number and designer. On the back is a sticker with the model number along with the release number, in this case 1173, which is unique to every controller. The internals are pretty much the same as the original ASCII controller. However, on the Famitsu models, ASCII has added backlit buttons and LEDs to the main board. The main board has the number 999-33770 and has a lot more components on it due to the LEDs. The chip is also labeled as an ASCII chip instead of a PlayStation chip. Here's how the buttons look when pressed. Keys 1, 3, and 5 light up yellow, while keys 2 and 4 light up red. Famitsu Model F4 is the next controller on the list. This controller was designed by TGB Design and was labeled as number 606. There isn't much on the back of the box. The website for TGB Design still works to this date, but you'll only find references to this controller on older versions on the Wayback Machine. The controller is white with some futuristic looking decals. The sticker below the buttons shows the model number F4 with the designer TGB Design. On the back is a sticker with the model number along with the release number, in this case 606, which is unique to every controller. I won't be opening this controller or the next one, as they are the same internals between all 3 Famitsu controllers. Here's how the buttons look when pressed. Keys 1, 3, and 5 light up red, while keys 2 and 4 light up blue. Famitsu Model F5 is the next controller on the list. This controller was designed by Hibiki Tokiwa and Mars Art Lab, and is labeled as number 137. The The text Animal of Errors is listed on several spots, including as the abbreviation AOA that creates the bear faces. The back of the box has an image of the controller. Mars Art Lab is a graphic design team made up of Hibiki Tokiwa and Akiko Masuda. Animal of Errors was the name of their store, which sold items they designed until about 2004. The site still exists on the Wayback Machine. The controller itself is yellow with a red cord and blue connector. The turntable and buttons have the AOA bear face on each of them. The sticker below the buttons shows the model number F5 with the designer Hibiki Tokiwa and Mars Art Lab, with a slight typo in the word designed. There is some nonsensical text listed underneath the turntable as well. On the back is a sticker with the model number along with the release number, in this case 137, which is unique to every controller. Here's how the buttons look when pressed. Keys 1, 3, and 5 light up green, while keys 2 and 4 light up red. It's time for the first knockoff controller, which is the Beatcon. This controller is made by, well, I actually don't know. There are no company names or copyright information anywhere on the box or the controller. The box has a bunch of names of Beatmania songs in the background, as well as some scratch notes on the sides. The text on the back is the same text that's on the ASCII controller, but they forgot a whole line of text, yet they fixed the 2 typos. The controller looks a lot like the original ASCII controller, even down to the exact measurements for the turntable and button placements. But the turntable has some circular grooves on it. The text for the start and select buttons are written in the font Comic Sans. There is no sticker on the back either. The inside looks very similar to the ASCII controller as well. The switch PCB and sensor PCBs look just as plain, and the main PCB only has 1 chip on it, which has no identifying marks. The board is labeled as PSBM2, which I assume stands for PlayStation Beatmania 2. The keys are exactly the same as the ASCII controller. The turntable has a single plastic disc between the turntable itself and the controller, and feels a lot more flimsy than the disc on the ASCII controller. The DJ Station Pro is the next controller on the list. This one is special because it's made in-house by Konami and not by a third party like ASCII. I would say this is one of the best controllers for playing 5-key Beatmania compared to all the others on this list. This controller was released in January of 1999. The front and the back of the box are very similar and show an image of the controller. On the back it has the number CT013, which is an internal reference number for Konami products. For example, the Beatmania Pocket 2 is CT014 and came out after the DJ Station Pro in the same year. Compared to the ASCII controller, this controller has a 20mm larger turntable diameter, about 36% larger, 2mm longer keys, and the keys are 3mm more spread out between each other. There are 2 volume knobs on the left side, because this controller has a headphone jack built in. The controller can act as a pass-through for audio and video from the PlayStation, and the audio cables from the PlayStation can plug into the controller. Doing this will allow the headphone port to work. On the back of the controller is a battery compartment that holds 2 AA batteries for the button lights. Here is how those button lights look without the AA batteries installed, and now with the batteries installed. On the inside of the turntable, there are 6 rollers that the turntable rides on, as well as a lot of cyan-colored lubrication. This lubrication has not hardened at all and is still working after 27 years, and still keeps the turntable spinning just fine. On the inside is one large main board with a breakout board for the turntable. In order to remove the board, the volume knobs have to be taken off the front first. The main board is labeled with the code UP0078-26 number 01-1. Each of the 5 buttons has 2 red LEDs that light it up. Also, this controller has normal buttons instead of piano-style buttons like in the other controllers. There is what looks to be a bodge wire installed on the main board, as well as this small little board that is glued on, almost like Konami had to fix something after they had already designed the main board. This small board appears to be wired up to the battery terminals, so it's possible the battery terminals were added in late. My guess is when they realized the lights were not as bright as they wanted them to be, and they wanted more power for them, all they had to do was redesign the rear shell to add batteries instead, and they added a small little board to wire everything up instead of redesigning and manufacturing the entire main board. Konami also made another controller, but specifically only for the European market. This controller came out in June of 2000. The back of the box has examples of some PAL region exclusive songs and how to use the controller in several different languages spoken in that region. It also comes with the PAL version of Beatmania, one of the few games I have not played yet. There are a bunch of PAL exclusive songs in this version. The controller itself is one of the stranger designs compared to the ASCII controller, with the turntable protruding upwards more than even the DJ Station Pro, and this weird plastic block area above the keys where the start and select buttons are. I feel like this whole part could have been designed better. The turntable does have some raised portions on the top for grip and spins fairly well though. The turntable internals are built very similarly to the ASCII controller, but there's only one plastic disc inside instead of two. The opto sensors look slightly different than all the other controllers I've shown so far. The keys are just like the ASCII controller with the piano style keys, although each white key is a unique shape and isn't the same like the ASCII controller. On the back is the internal product code and the serial number on a sticker. To open the controller there are 6 screws, 5 of which are visible, the 6th being under the bottom middle footpad. On the inside there are 3 boards, the turntable encoder board, the main board, and the start and select board. These 2 screws on the main board are only screwed into the black keys, which I found somewhat interesting. The main board is labeled as a K8071 main PCB with a part number 760-52400 and was manufactured in 1999. Under the main board, the controller buttons are visible, which also shows how each white key is shaped differently, but still uses the same piano key style. There is what appears to be a blob chip on a small board soldered to the main board as well. The last controller I will be showing is the DJ Man, made by Joytech. This is a very unique controller as it has a couple features the others do not have. One of these features is a rumble effect. The controller comes with 2 wrist accessories that are strapped onto your wrists and will light up and vibrate whenever the rumble feature on a PlayStation game is triggered. The second is the LEDs around the turntable, which will activate either by the rumble feature or by audio levels. The controller itself is a slightly transparent black plastic, but it also does come in other colors like blue, cyan, and clear. There is a switch at the top to toggle the turntable lights to either activate by rumble or by audio input. The turntable has some indentations to try to add grip compared to the flat surface on the ASCII controller. The keys are a slight variation on piano style keys, but act in the same way. On the bottom of the controller is a port to plug in the wrist accessories using the provided Y cable. Here's what the wrist accessories look like. They do not require any batteries to run, as they are essentially just controller rumble motors with a single LED, which gets power through the controller. The red plastic is slightly transparent, and I will show these in action later. The controller cable has the standard PlayStation plug and 2 audio breakout cables. These are to enable the audio feature for the lights around the turntable, which I will also show later. It comes with a circular shaped manual, which shows how to plug the controller into the console and the TV, and how to enable either the rumble or audio feature on it, as well as how to hook up the wrist accessories. The turntable internals are very similar to the ASCII controller with 2 plastic discs inside. On the inside, there are 2 large boards, one for the buttons and one for everything else. This resistor they installed looks very sketchy and it could easily short if it was pushed down slightly. On the other side of the button board, they typoed the word Beatmania, typing Beatmanin instead. Each button has 1 LED light, which looks really bad when lit up, which I will show later. The buttons themselves are made up of only 2 pieces, instead of each button being individually made. They feel very flimsy and feel like they could snap off, but they shouldn't get too much abuse when properly installed. On the other side of the main board, the ring of lights around the turntable are visible. There are a total of 14 lights. The opto sensor for the turntable doesn't appear to be soldered on correctly, which might cause some gameplay issues. I wired up my controller to the audio cables on my PlayStation, and I have the turntable lights set to music mode. The audio levels start from the bottom center at 0 decibels, and climb up around to the top at full volume. Each half of the turntable lights are either the left audio channel or right audio channel. The LEDs on the keyboard are also visible here, but it doesn't light up the entire key. The LED light is clearly visible when they are pressed, especially on the black keys. Here is some footage of the wrist accessories in action. The rumble motor can clearly be seen inside spinning as they are activated, as well as the small red LED. There are times where only one will spin, and times where both will spin, as it imitates the heavy and light rumble feature of the DualShock controller. That is a brief overview of 8 different Beatmania 5-key controllers. Out of all of these, I still prefer using the DJ Station Pro, and I would not recommend playing on the ASCII controller variants. I believe that was every variant of the 5-key controllers that are currently out there, but if I missed any, please let me know in the comments. That's the end of this video, thanks for watching.